Okay, so I promise you guys, this thing that I'm wearing, this hideous thing, is supposed to be a wizard costume, right? I know it probably doesn't look like it. In fact, when I wear the hood, it kind of looks like I'm just cultural appropriating? It's not a fucking look. Like, this looks bad, and not just in like a shitty costume kind of way. Like, this looks bad. So I think what I'm gonna do instead is just wear this like a top piece, and then I'm just gonna wear this little goofy wizard hat instead. Perfect. Dark Souls 2 has to be one of the most divisive games that I can think of off the top of my head. It's like this generation's version of Castlevania 2. People either seem to really love it or really hate it. Imagine this perfect little game comes out that is the perfect amalgamation of difficulty, intrigue, and replayability. Everybody loves it, everyone's addicted to it, and everybody swears it to be one of the best games that they've ever played. Imagine trying to follow up a game like that. Don't worry, I'm not going to spend the next 10 minutes talking about how this game was underrated because people overhyped it because the first game or whatever. I'm sure there's a million other essays that already do that, and this video's long as fuck. I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff, not just one topic, don't worry. I personally think that Dark Souls 2 stands tall on the mountain amongst the other games as this like great triumph of a perfect difficult video game. And on the side of the mountain is like the okay Souls-likes, and at the very bottom is some stupid shit like Flappy Bird or something. One of the things people always like to criticize the most about Dark Souls 2 was the fact that it was directed by a different guy than Miyazaki. People make a very big deal out of that, in fact. If you watch a lot of videos being critical of this game, I guarantee at some point they'll at least mention this. And yeah, it is pretty strange for a game to be directed by someone else besides the creator of said idea, but I feel like nobody gives this other director any credit, or even sometimes people don't even say who he is. They just say it was another guy. I don't know how to say his last name, but he's right here. You know what else this guy directed? He like co-directed Elden Ring, dude. He co-directed all the DLC for this game and Dark Souls 3, but nobody ever wants to talk about that. Why? Miyazaki himself even considers Dark Souls 2 to be a triumph in their series in his opinion. He says a lot of ideas from this game were directly carried over into future installments. See, look, even your guys' favorite dude says it's a good game. You can't argue with him. But as much as I loved Dark Souls 2, I never actually beat it as a teenager. I had to give the game back to my friend eventually, and I just kind of moved on after that. I didn't really pick up my own copy of it for some reason, but I did think about it for a while, for like the next year or so. Until my brother-in-law gave me Dark Souls 3 for Christmas. I was also horrendous at this game, but I had so much fun with this like way more flowy and free-feeling combat. I made it a lot further in this game even though I wasn't playing it right. I just like wasn't leveling up. I was dying constantly and losing all of my souls, and I just had like the base game weapons on like the fucking Abyss Watchers boss fight or something. Safe to say, I didn't beat this game either. Eventually, I played the first game too later on in high school. I enjoyed this one a lot as well, and it even felt easier to me in certain instances compared to the other ones. Maybe it's because I already like knew some of that stuff. I still continued to try to play Dark Souls 1 a lot though over the years, continuing to just a few years ago where I actually made it pretty far in the game and ultimately gave up because it still wasn't clicking for me. That's something I always heard people say in all the Dark Souls videos, was that they struggled and struggled with the game, but at some point something just clicks for you. And at this point it had been years for me. I liked these games a lot, I really enjoyed playing them, but it was just not clicking like people said it was going to. But then eventually, they fucking did. That's primarily what I want to discuss today, how I came to understand Dark Souls and how I finally came to love these games, particularly the first two. While I'm making this, I'm actually still playing through Dark Souls 3 on and off. I'm kind of taking a break from the series because you'll see why when I get to it later. Before I could spend way too long though talking about Dark Souls 2, I gotta talk about Dark Souls 1 for a bit. What just happened? It was like some kind of flash. My computers. Uh-oh. Hopefully that doesn't fucking happen again. I thought my laptop was broken for a sec. My camera just passed the fuck out, dude. Playing Dark Souls 1 after playing its crazy ass sequels felt like putting on a nice warm glove that was also filled with broken glass and razor blades. Oh, why am I still putting it on? It was like riding a bike, except someone kept shoving a tree branch into my wheel, causing me to crash out, and then they blamed me for falling over. In normal terms, playing this game after playing its sequels felt like a comforting yet painful experience. It was familiar yet unique and exciting. I remember picking up a copy of this for my Xbox originally and playing the shit out of it. I didn't even use the Xbox that much anymore, but having this game on it made me use it every fucking day. Like I said way earlier though, I did not end up beating it then or in 2022 when I picked the game back up. It wasn't until 2024 that I returned to Dark Souls 1 on the same save, realized that I was a fucking idiot and never rang the second bell. I had went through Blighttown, didn't fight the boss, and just didn't ring the bell and left at some point, and went to like New Londo because it was like right next to it and I just assumed I had to be there. No, I fucking didn't. Not for a while. And returning to the game 2 years later, I was also still confused because I thought I had rung the second bell, so I tried New Londo again, got my ass kicked again. Then I went all the way back to the asylum, the undead asylum from the beginning of the game, fought the second boss there, killed him by circle strafing, which is something that I'm not that thrilled about. I'll talk about that later. And then still had no fucking idea what I was supposed to do. Only then did I finally realize I never even fucking fought Clowag. I don't know why I didn't even think to check. But man, did I really fall in love with this game. Returning to my character named Smeeg, whose strength was maxed the fuck out but had like no dexterity and no endurance. So seriously, when I came back I had like 40 strength, so I could use heavy weapons. My guy was just so stupid in dexterity that he did not know how to fucking use good weapons. He just knew how to hold them well. So after some grinding and some fixing, Smeeg quickly became a very favorite character of mine. I still name all my other characters Smeeg now just because of it. Ah, Smeeg, I love you, man. You're so stupid though. 8 intelligence is crazy. This motherfucker is dumb as a rock. After finishing this playthrough with this formerly scuffed character, I felt like my perspective on video games had changed. And I know that's something that everybody says when they play this game, but trust me, once you beat Dark Souls, it ruins video games for you. Hell, once you're addicted to this game, it ruins other games for you. You will eat, sleep, and shit Dark Souls until you beat that game, or you will fall into the deepest depression after not finishing it. It's a fucking curse, but it's worth it. You probably all know this story, but for clarity's sake, Hidetaka Miyazaki is only 31 years old and gets put in charge of this dying fantasy game project from the studio that could care less about it. So with that creative freedom, Miyazaki basically turns this game into the type of video game that he felt had been missing from the industry for quite some time. And that was hard ass shit. That game was called Demon Souls, and it somehow got released despite the studio's pushback. Oh, what's that? They limited where it was released so that it would cause it to flop on purpose? Oh. And that late success allowed them to make the spiritual successor in 2011, Dark Souls. This game had a lot to teach me and I was eager to learn. There was so many builds and weapons and boss fights and unique areas of cool names and aesthetics. This game is almost 14 years old and it still looks really cool at times to me. Seeing that cool view of the sun peering over the mountaintops when you meet Solaire, that insane view at Anor Londo when you first get there, hundreds of empty giant tombs off in the distance, and Tomb of the Giant. It still blows my mind how every build in this game manages to feel unique and fun in their own ways. They all have their respective weaknesses too, so it really causes you to think, what parts of the game am I really going to need the most help with? I personally like being a light armored fast rolling freak with the biggest fucking weapon you've ever seen. Throughout most of my playthrough with Dark Souls 1, I wore that Grim Reaper fit, and I carried around the Dragon Tooth, which I'm sure is a weapon that a lot of you are familiar with as well. But for a while I was really into the Great Axe, which I upgraded like crazy and was a pretty good weapon until I switched it out for the Black Knight Greatsword, which was also a really great weapon for different reasons because it felt a little quicker, and I liked the variety in the ways that he would swing it rather than just but god damn, I fell in love when I realized I had the Dragon Tooth. I don't even think I used it when I first got it. It took me a second to realize that I even had it in my inventory, but when I did, it was love at first sight. The Dragon's Tooth is a scarily huge strength weapon that is exactly what it sounds like. It is the tooth of a giant dragon. The only way that you can upgrade this fucking thing is if you find dragon scales, which you have to kill these like decrepit undead dragons to get. Not easy. But when I paired that with that dope ass Grim Reaper fit, it was like love at first sight for me. I already made that comparison, but just like fucking come on, look at how cool I am. The best part about it is that you don't wear shoes when you wear this costume. Oh, why horse gun? No, you can't do this.
Can't bring horse into building.
I have to be polite. This is not my castle.
Society Grace on the list.
Shall I take my shoes off?
Yeah, you don't want
Maybe you're right.
Oh, no, you gotta put your palace shoes on. You don't want to bring your dirty boots inside. Oh yeah, you could... I have come for the Elden Ring.
He would be wearing something else. Dude, he's like a Barbie. He has no penis.
No, he's just wearing a loincloth.
Oh, thank God. No, I'll put on my new outfit as a victory thing. I'll put on the top half of the new outfit, but I still gotta be I am not in my...
Put your goddamn pants on, Brandon. It's like the opposite of the mask. It is really hard to get Brandon to clothe himself properly.
Shut the fuck up! You can't make me put my goddamn pants on in this game.
Put your god... You know what?
You can't even
this
tell
is
it.
better. This is better.
Now I just look like an Adventure Time wizard.
Yeah.
Sure, sometimes this weapon made me feel like a badass anime character that was unstoppable, but other times it really just evened the playing field a little bit against these terrifying monsters that I was still fucking so scared to fight. My heart was pounding the whole time I was fighting some of these guys. Here's a video of me after I finished the Four Kings boss fight finally. This is embarrassing. You gotta subscribe because I'm showing you this. So I love feeling like I'm on equal footing to some of these insane badasses, walking into an arena and being like, this fight could go one of two ways right now. Is so cool. This is the closest I will ever get to feeling like some kind of crazy badass solo leveling ass anime character, because no anime game has ever come close to ever giving me that feeling. Anime games are so ass sometimes, dude. It got to the point where my weapon was so upgraded and so powerful against some enemies that I started to feel mean and cocky about it. You guys fear the giant ice monsters, motherfucker. They fear me. I am the one who knocks. Combat in this game was a little more stiff than the likes of 3 or Bloodborne, obviously. It takes a second to get used to, but once you do, I think it feels really good, honestly. Sure, there's only 4-way rolling, and sometimes it can feel really stiff, and you gotta come to a grinding halt to drink that Estus flask, and it gets so much worse in Dark Souls 2. It honestly blows my mind how well it still holds up. Like, this combat system and movement was thought out since the beginning, clearly. They just improved it ever so slightly going forward. I do enjoy the more purposeful and slow movement here, but goddamn, it feels so good to move this fast. In Elden Ring, I feel like a ninja, but I'm actually a samurai. So other things too, like the classes in this game all feel really thought out. Like, you get the perfect amount right here, and the only reason that Elden Ring adds new ones isn't because these ones were bad and needed replacing. It's because the new classes that they added are cool. Who doesn't want to be a fucking samurai in one of these games? What? I love exploring every area in this game. Like I said, they all look pretty good still in my opinion, but it's not just that. The sense of wonder and like curiosity you get going into every area. There's so many secrets and there's so many things of hidden lore. I get anxious and kind of excited to see what the new enemy type is I'm going to be fighting for each area. It's really interesting stuff. Each area feels so purposeful and unique though, even though they're all interconnected. One of the coolest things about Dark Souls 1 is the way that the map just bleeds into each area so naturally. Everything makes sense where it is placed on the map. It all flows so perfectly. It feels so thought out, so like they really spent a lot of time making this make sense. But while it is really fucking cool that every area is connected, it does kind of get tiresome to have to backtrack everywhere for the first half of this game. Getting the ability to warp between bonfires after Anor Londo changes everything. I never looked back after that, not once. I was warping fucking everywhere. But the worst part is I forgot to get the one right next to Quelaag, so every time I wanted to go back down to Blighttown again for a while, I just had to walk. Having it all be interconnected like this also aids the feeling that this world has been really lived in. Like, this feels like a fallen kingdom that used to be bursting with life. Sure, it's not as exciting as it is in like Bloodborne, where you can literally knock on their doors, but it's pretty damn close. But this one definitely hits the nail on the head when it comes to that feeling of loneliness and dread. Going hollow is such a freaky concept and a really good depiction of how difficult bottling up depression can be, but we're not going to get all fucking philosophical right now. I just wanted to throw it out there that I think that narrative piece is very cool. It's just really commendable because a lot of games I've seen trying to push the theme of depression have kind of really failed to stick the landing, but this does it perfectly. And side note, that fight against Gwyn is probably the most emotionally impactful boss fights I've ever played, with one of the best theme songs I can think of too. This dude's whole existence is a never-ending hollow tragedy, and they do such a great job of making you feel that. Speaking of beautiful, that world design, man, Anor Londo really feels like somebody spent weeks trying to create the most beautiful looking fantasy castle that they could, and they did that. AI could never recreate this shit. It can try, see? This shit looks like ass. All the shortcuts and strange misdirections in the world just get me giddy, man. No, giddy. I didn't say diddy. Get the fuck out of it. It's just really cool that this game encourages you to explore. It doesn't up and tell you, hey, go in there. There's a secret. There's a whole hidden world behind this painting. That's something you have to find out for yourself. But they give you the pieces and they give you the freedom to do that. So if you don't find things, it's kind of on you for not looking hard enough in the game's eyes. They could care less if you see all these cool secrets. They just wanted them to be there because it's cool. It's always worth trying because you could go down this pathway. Hey, maybe things will be easier. Maybe you'll find a shortcut, or maybe we'll slap a Black Knight down here. Who knows? But even that's okay because it can act as a cool learning experience. Like so many things in this game loves to teach you its ways, and it's not always nice about it. Even something as simple as the undead, which can be easier to kill than a fucking Left 4 Dead zombie, serve a purpose. It's really cool. The way these guys attack, sometimes slow, waiting behind their shield, and sometimes insanely quick and sporadically, like an idiot almost flailing his arms like this fucking piece of shit. Get a load of this guy. This teaches you what to expect from future enemies in the game. A lot of the attacks you'll be facing can be dwindled down to these first few experiences. Once you get this down, you can take on anybody. I love going through this area because of that, but I also just love Undeadburg itself. I don't hear enough people talk about how cool this place is. It feels like a fucking city built on top of itself in a way. It is just a huge labyrinth of a kingdom, and it is so cool even in its decrepit state. There's so much mystery here. There's a fucking dragon, because of course there is. There's cool boss fights that you have to wonder about. I wonder if this guy was contained down in what is essentially hell at some point and just escaped and is now on top of this bridge because there was nobody to stop him. Yup. I know a lot of the area comes down to just gray concrete hallways, but when it looks good, it's really good. And it's simple level design that serves a purpose. Every area teaches you how to play the game better. You'll spend so much time here in the early game that it almost starts to feel like a home. I get like a sense of fucking nostalgia whenever I revisit this place. And so many areas seem to branch off from this place too, like the Darkroot Forest or fucking Blighttown. These are very different things, but they're like right next to each other. I hate going through Blighttown, but the idea of this like weird, gross bug kingdom built in the dark underneath of a bridge out of sight of the kingdom is so fucking cool to me. That is the stuff that you need to see in fantasy games, man. But actually experiencing it though, Jesus, you know how this shit is, man. Going through this changes a motherfucker. Another thing that makes this game a bit more difficult than its sequels is the damn near lack of bonfires. It has the least amount of bonfires in the game, coming in at just 43. For comparison, the other games are pushing 70 and 80. And I know I just talked about how cool the interconnectivity is, but I also wanted to point out that this game isn't as like free-flowing as some people like to say it is. I tried, okay? You still have to basically do everything. Like it's a checklist almost. You can just avoid certain things and do certain things in different orders if you feel like it. Like if you have the master key, you can just skip the depths and the gaping dragon entirely. Or if you have that, you could start with Blighttown if you're a fucking psychopath and do that part first. You can also beat the 4 kings early on in the game if you get all the souls to go into that one part of the Darkroot Forest or whatever, and then you fight Sith, which is a pretty easy boss fight, but not in the early game, and then you can get the ring, and then you can fight the 4 kings for some reason. Why would anyone want to do this first? You're a psychopath. But I guess if you're a sorcerer, you can break the game this way too by immediately upgrading your magic to way higher than it needs to be at this point in the game and just obliterating everything. I guess you can also go fight Pinwheel pretty early on, but like nobody wants to do that, man. Come on. Anor Londo in particular is so well designed. Hey, isn't this that place from the Pug Duck video?
Alright, here he comes. No!
These tight catwalks with the archers that will instantly knock you off, teach you to be quick and careful with your movements at the same time. The fact that they just send you on a straight shot through the level and tell you can't go back until you finish this area is scary as fuck, but really cool. And just exploring this place too, oh my god, it's so big and exciting. There's so many rooms, there's so much cool loot and so many enemies, and there's a reason that people still suck off this location to this day, okay? And then you go through all that chaos, fight the fucking insane boss fight there, which I had so much fun doing this, by the way. I summoned like 2 other dudes who also had massive 2-handed weapons, and we were just like an unstoppable fucking army together. I know some people don't like summons, but you can eat my ass. They are fun. And opening that huge front door after the journey you just went on to realize that you're finally out of Anor Londo is an insane feeling. So with seeing that giant princess lady, she is scarily big. She's standing right behind me, isn't she? But all that interconnectivity was cool and all, but nothing quite blew my mind like the first time I played this game like 6 years ago, and I first went down that elevator in the chapel and came back out at the Firelink Shrine. That was fucking crazy. I know it's just an elevator ride, and that's something that this game relies a little bit too much on, but goddamn, was it still so cool the first time it happened, man. You could not replicate an experience like that. I think it's a good idea that they give you the option to warp at this point though, because after you get to the point of Anor Londo, you're probably pretty fucking tired of walking around everywhere. And I mentioned it earlier, but returning to the asylum after everything I experienced is a major trip. The fact that they can make this familiar area that you start in, and I've played through hundreds of times, making new characters feel new and exciting but also scary as fuck is interesting as hell to me. Like, I know these hallways. Why am I nervous about what's gonna happen here? When you see that Black Knight standing in front of your cell for some reason, why is he there? He wasn't there before. It doesn't matter, it's freaky as fuck. Or when you come up that one staircase and just see your old knight friend standing there in the dark, just staring at the wall, it is very menacing. And actually having to fight him was depressing as hell, but also really cool. This is a fun ass fight, one of the most memorable ones from the first game in my opinion, and it wasn't even a boss fight. Because when you get to this area's actual boss, it kind of sucks ass. It's just the Asylum Demon again from the beginning of the game, except this one has magic, and which is annoying as hell. But you can easily beat the guy even with weaker weapons if you just stand behind him and hit him in the ass until he dies, which kind of sucks because you can make a really cool and exciting monster design, but I'm not going to be scared of it if I can kill it by circle strafing it. Same thing goes with certain monsters like Ceaseless Discharge. Not only was his name so fucking funny that I stopped being scared of him, but that was one of the easiest boss fights in the whole entire game. The setup to this fight, the build up of walking up to this giant monster and then he finally wakes up is so cool, and then it's so fucking easy. What the hell is that? There's also other really easy bosses like Pinwheel, because dude, going through the catacombs for the first time was like my personal 9/11. This was so fucking painfully difficult because I didn't know you could just skip half of it. And Pinwheel almost feels like a reward after all of that. Getting to kick this stupid motherfucker's ass was like, it was just nice. It was like taking out all my anger on a punching bag. Fun fact, when I played this game like in 2022, like I talked about when I first made Smeeg, I somehow managed to get Blighttown mixed up with the catacombs because I finished the Gaping Dragon boss fight and I figured out that you're supposed to go to Blighttown, and I was like, oh, Blighttown, that's that shitty dark place everyone hates. I know a place like that. Turns out there's 2 different shitty dark places, sorry, 3 different shitty dark places in this game that everybody hates. 4! Fuck! The second half of Dark Souls gets a lot more hate these days, which I can kind of understand in certain senses. Fuck that giant tumbleweed looking ass boss fight. Lost Izalith more like I wish I never found this shit. Gravelord Nito can Gravelord Ito my asshole. Even someone who loves this game as much as I do can acknowledge that there's problems here because I felt that shit. I was there with you, dude. I was mad. But I do want to say that not every part of the second half of this game was disappointing to me. Sure, Tomb of the Giants was annoying as hell at points, but it was also one of the most exhilarating and scary moments in the game for me. Trying to sneak around in that darkness, avoiding these giant skeletons was fucking horrifying. Only being able to make them out by the outline of their eyes until I realized I could just use his head and see exactly where I need to go. And that boss fight also sucked ass. I wish I knew the first time I did that his goons only spawn in if you run around the map. If you just wait for him to come to you, you'll only have to fight like 2 or 3 of them. That made everything 10 million times easier. Fuck this guy, he can eat my dick. So can the Four Kings boss fight. I'm sorry, this is just straight up a bad boss fight. The arena is just a black void, which makes it kind of fucking hard to tell if you're actually standing next to the guy or if you're like 7 feet away from him. And if you take too long for the game's standards to beat this fight, they'll just keep throwing more at you. So by the end, I was fighting like 3 at once, but at least you could hit any of them and they'll all take this certain damage at the bottom. You know, it all adds up. It's like a hive mind type deal. But before I did any of that garbage, I personally started with the Duke's Archives, and I really enjoyed exploring this place. I found the architecture to be awesome. I hear people praise Anor Londo all the time, but I never hear anyone talk about how cool this place looks. The second half of the Darkroot Forest leading to Sif was so much fun for me because I love the PvP in this game. Fighting every single other class in the game almost felt like I was fighting the Avengers of Dark Souls. I don't know if that makes any sense, but it was fun as fuck, okay? I love this shit. And then there's these silly little mushroom guys. What the fuck's that about? What the fuck is this guy's doing? The Sif boss fight was depressing as hell too, and it's also worse if you pay attention and realize that he's getting slower and weaker throughout the fight. I didn't though because I killed him so quickly that I didn't even see him living. I do just wish that these bosses in these areas had more to offer. Cum Dragon was ridiculously easy. I did get that feeling with some of the areas in this game though, where the area itself was harder to get through than the actual boss fight. Take Sen's Fortress for example. I spent hours going through that thing over and over again, memorizing the traps and when they happen so I could move at the perfect time just to finally get through it. And I was kind of nervous to see what kind of boss I was going to fight. To be honest, from the cutscene at the beginning, I thought Sen was going to be this giant ogre and he was like at the top of this castle pulling these chains and controlling all the traps in there. That would have been really cool. That's not what it is at all. You can fight this giant ogre guy up here, but all he's doing is dropping rocks into this hole. You know those fucking boulders that were hitting you on the staircase? Yeah, it's that asshole. So fuck that guy. I killed his ass. But the actual boss itself is just this tall knight dude, and he is so easy. I summoned the game's NPC that it gives you that you can summon, and we kicked his ass in seconds. Like, I could have done this by myself. Especially when I found out that you can apparently just bait him into falling off the side of the platform. That will never not be fun in these games, man. I love doing that shit. I was nervous and kind of sad to finish this game. I was not ready to go and confront Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder. I don't think that From Software will ever make a villain this tragic and impactful, in my opinion. Everything from his backstory to the way he looks to his boss arena to that music is just horribly depressing. The walk you take leading up to this boss just makes you feel so empty and cold almost, which is kind of fucking crazy because you're supposed to be going towards like the fucking major fire that powers this world and all of its magic, but it's so burnt out and shallow at this point that he really does earn his name of Lord of Cinder, Lord of an ash fucking cigarette pretty much, because there's nothing here. Just look at this guy, man. That is someone who's just tired. He is someone who has lived for way too long, suffered so much unbelievable shit, watched his kingdom fall and die in front of him while he was left alone, and he's still fighting for some reason. He still somehow manages to keep going when there's literally nothing left to keep going for. But he's also a major asshole. Goddamn, I don't think I often get stuck on final bosses anymore, but I spent forever on this one. Fuck your ass, man. You definitely get a sense of achievement from beating this game, but killing him also leaves you with a sense of regret. Who were you to really decide if he gets to live or die? What makes you think that you stand any better chance of saving this world than he did? And the game just kind of ends with that uncertainty. It's really impactful stuff, man. Dark Souls was special. I think I always knew this. I always knew it was really good, and I even loved it from a distance for a long time. But finally going and understanding it has been a life-changing experience for me. And that feels really good too, considering how this game has been fucking everywhere. This franchise has always been popular. I loved the rage montages and silly animations back in the day. I loved watching people play this game, but I always felt like I was missing out on actually doing it myself. And getting to beat Dark Souls 1 is an experience that I think a lot of people should fucking have, honestly. If you haven't played these games before, you should play them. I know everyone says that, but trust me. Trust me. This is not just some hard video game. This is a video game that is made for everybody. And I said I was going to explain what I meant by these games clicking to me, and I finally will now. These games click when you realize that it's not just some hard, insane rage fest, and you realize how much effort and thought went into every single encounter of this game. How meticulously made it is, how thought out every game design choice was, how perfect the combat is. But in simple terms, this game clicks when you see that big scary enemy, and instead of running away or trying to avoid them like I did when I first played these games, you say, fuck it, I'm gonna fight that guy. I'm gonna go and fight that guy right now. And when you do, everything changes. It just makes sense all of a sudden. That is what I think Dark Souls is. That is what I think this series is built on. This sense of facing these insurmountable obstacles and just destroying them. It fits perfectly with the theme of overcoming your depression and moving on in life, but it also just feels so goddamn satisfying as a game design mechanic. So I want to talk directly to everybody now who's ever given up on these games or thinks that they're not for them. They probably are. You just haven't had that moment for me yet. And I know, I get it. I was just like you at one point. I thought that these games would never click for me either. I swore that they wouldn't. I was like, everyone else is going to be good at these games. I'll just forever be stuck having to enjoy other people being good at these games. I'm fine with that. But now look, I'm over here making a fucking way too long video about these games because I can't stop playing them because I like them so much. So I think you can definitely do it too if my stupid ass can do it. Now that we're like fucking forever into this video, it's time to talk about Dark Souls 2.